I think I'm coming from a different angle than maybe most of the people who have given a talk already, because I'm not a medical doctor on tinnitus or Menieres or hearing loss, but I am an expert on suffering with tinnitus and hearing loss and vertigo. I do have Meniere's disease myself. I have it over 30 years, so I am an expert on it. I was going to read from notes, but I decided no, there is really no need for me to, because it's just so familiar to me that I understand it, without having to read the notes. I just brought notes in case I needed them. However, I would like to say that when I did have to give up my job through suffering from severe vertigo, hearing loss, recruitment, where everything was too loud. I was deaf 1 minute, next minute everything would be too loud. I did have to actually give up my job because I was driving to groups, I was facilitating groups for people who suffered with mental health issues. So that's a bit loud there, isn't it? So it's a bit loud for me anyway on one side. But luckily this side is the loud side. So anyway, I did give up my job because I had to stop driving, because my balance, if there weren't a white line in the middle of the road, my car would be going over that white line. So I actually had to stop driving. When I tell you about my story living with Menieres, I will tell you the positive side of it after that, because otherwise you'll go home depressed. But I actually can remember my very first attack vividly. I don't have to read it, I remember it. It is published in a magazine here, but not word for word, but basically I remember going up the stairs, just walking up the stairs like a normal person, thinking there was nothing wrong with me, except I had felt a bit of pressure in my ears for a few days, and I had felt a little bit nauseous, and I had headaches, severe headaches. I live with headaches. I very rarely don't have a headache. But I was 27 years of age, and I had 3 small children. And they were aged 6 months and 4 and 5 years of age. And I went up the stairs for any routine reason, I can't even remember. And I remember suddenly this pressure in my ears became very intense. And I remember wondering, what was it? Why is this? I'll have to go to the doctor with this. Maybe I have an ear infection or something. And then I remember suddenly the room starts spinning around rapidly, and it was inexplainable. Like, really, it was dreadful. I knew I had three small children downstairs, and I was upstairs, and I knew I couldn't get down the stairs, so this was going to be really very hard. That was my first attack, and it wasn't stopping. And then I didn't know it was called vertigo, but it just kept spinning and spinning, and it was getting faster and faster and faster. And then I started vomiting. And then I thought, I have to get down the stairs. I have to get down to get one of the kids to tell somebody to come in to help me. I went down the stairs on my back, holding on to the rail of the stairs, and slid slowly down with the room spinning. And that was very difficult. So I had to hold, the only thing I knew I had to do was hold tight to the rail of the stairs, because then I can't fall. That's all I knew I could do. So I got to the end of the stairs, and I called my eldest daughter, and I said, she was 5, I think, and I said to her, will you get a chair, open the door, and get a neighbour for me, because I can't see, I can't look at a number on a phone or anything. There were no mobile phones anyway. And she did that, and she got a neighbour, and a doctor came eventually. And I think I got a Stemetil injection on reflection. I know that's what it was. I didn't know what it was then. But it stopped the vertigo, the severe spin. I had vomited, and so severely that my stomach hurt for days afterwards. And that was the first attack, the first of many, many of those, which came in a bundle of attacks all around those years. I remember it was a very big deal. I didn't drive then, and it was a very big deal for me to bring my 3 children in, which was a big thing I wanted to do, in to see Santa Claus in Cleary's at the time. And going on the bus was like, I developed agoraphobia is basically where I'm getting to. And I ended up going for help to a behavioural therapist for agoraphobia. I couldn't go outside the door. I couldn't even go out at that time we had coal, I couldn't go out to get coal without dry retching. You know, I couldn't face people, I couldn't go to the shops. I'd get up and I'd go to the school, and if I met somebody, I'd tell them I had a cold or I had to rush home. So I didn't know what was happening. I was attending a doctor, a GP, who told me I had a virus and that I needed to just take liquids, and if I just took liquids, I would get better, that I had a bug, gastroenteritis. And this went on for 6 months till I became 5 stone 11. Now, if you can kind of imagine that, I'm 11 stone now, so I was really very anorexic, very, very weak, very tired, and I was sipping Lucozade. That's still a habit I have. I've just been drinking Lucozade before I came up. I still didn't get over the Lucozade bit. But anyway, this is where I was at, and eventually I changed doctor after 6 months, and I said, I can't go on like this. I just can't. It was unpredictable. I had 3 small children. I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. So he put me to I went to another GP, and he sent me to an ENT, an ear, nose and throat specialist in the then Adelaide Hospital when it was there. And I saw a doctor there who did a test on me called, I now know, the caloric test, which was the definitive test for Menieres disease. And I was absolutely thrilled that somebody told me I had Menieres disease, even though I didn't know what it was, because I felt I have a name on this. You know, I now know what it is. So I thought to myself, how can I deal with this? I went to behavioural therapy for agoraphobia. I went to self-help group. I did everything I could do. I went to counselling. Once I knew it wasn't all in my head and I knew it was genuinely a physical thing, I then started inquiring about the fact that I found out it was hereditary, that an aunt previous to me was the first ever person ever to get an operation on a Meniere's ear, and it was radical surgery, and it was done by a Dr. Woods in the Adelaide, or remember the head hospital that was in town years ago, can't remember the name, Richmond, was it? Yeah. And he did radical surgery, and she was stone deaf. She had it in both ears. So she lived on well into her 90s and looked after her husband. I wasn't born at this stage. She looked after her husband who was ill, but she didn't have vertigo, and she was happy to be deaf because she didn't have vertigo. And I know what that feels like. But I resisted all procedures which can be done, like gentamicin injections, which are very helpful, very good. Steroid injections. If you have it in both ears, you can get steroid injections. If you have it in one ear, the gentamicin injections will stop, they will kill the balance in that ear, but the other ear compensates. But the danger then is that you may have to get, if you develop the Menieres in the other ear, you may have to get, you know, you're really kind of stuck then. So, and I love music, and I play musical instruments, and I sing as a hobby. And that would be something that would kill me if I had to give up. So I didn't get any of those helps, but I did go to a once-off visit to a specialist in the Blackrock Clinic when I was 29ish, and he recommended that I take Cerc. Some people say it doesn't work for them, some people say it does. There are different medications. It worked for me. He said never go off it for the rest of your whole life. And I didn't, and I'm still on them. And I was on Stemetal tablets for 4 years in a row, for 4 days, four a day for 4 years, and they didn't do me any harm. And I had many attacks, and I've drop attacks, and then you get remissions in and out. I got good remissions. And in remissions, I went back to college. That's when I went back to college. And I studied counselling, and I studied addiction. And then I went to Trinity and did facilitation, and DCU I did leadership skills. So I then decided that my job, which was facilitating people who were recovering from mental illness, which I should have really been one of the members myself at the time, but I actually knew I was good at my job because I knew what it was like to suffer. I knew myself, you know, like I had the depression, the anxiety, the agoraphobia, and everybody that had a complaint in the groups where I was actually working as my job, I had suffered, you know, like them. So I knew what it was like, and I had now recovered from all those illnesses. But I continued on, and I actually decided one day that I can stop now. I remember the day I decided, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I was working, and I said, I can't do it anymore, I can't fight it anymore. I had tinnitus that was roaring through my head, like a seashell when you're a child, you put it up to your ear, you know that sound, and it was always there. In fact, it's there now, but it was always there then, and it's there since Thursday this week. But I also had other very loud noises which would come and would go. There is people with Meniere's disease. I'm a member of the Menieres Society in England, and people with Meniere's disease, I know a lot of the research that's been done and that has been done, but they are often referred to as people with musical ear, strangely enough, because I didn't know that, but I've since started up a Meniere's group. I do this all for nothing because I know what it's like myself, and when I had to give up my job, I had a very bad load of drop attacks when I would just have a drop attack on the street, and people who didn't think I was drunk and didn't step over me would wait long enough for me to say, excuse me, but I didn't say I have got Meniere's disease because they don't know what I'm talking about. I just said I have something that's very like seasickness, and I need help here. You know, I need you to do something for me. And I'd end up going off in an ambulance, you know, and then I'd get a stem-cell injection. So when I got to a certain level of wellness, which is kind of now, I am on and off remissions, I decided to go ahead and do everything I could possibly do despite the fear. It didn't matter to me if I had an attack. Even today, it didn't matter if I had an attack, because there's nothing I can do about it. You know, if I had an attack right here now in front of you, which is quite possible, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. So I came to that level of thinking through isolating myself first, through suffering with agoraphobia, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and finally through make or break. You know, and I said, I've got to make it, so I've got to do it. People don't understand Meniere's disease. People, family and friends find it very difficult to understand it, because one minute you're saying, will you turn down the television please, it's way too loud for me, I can't cope with it. And the next minute you're saying, I can't hear the telly, what are they saying? Or I can't hear you, or you're too loud. And that's because it's a physiological thing. Your hearing is actually fluctuating. You know, it is actually genuinely. But that's why I understand why people don't understand. Because if I didn't have it, I wouldn't understand unless they explained what I've just said to you, you know. Now, my family are used to me going with 3 levels of earplugs to functions, family weddings. My own 3 children's weddings, I attended them, but I did not stay in the evening part of the room. I had to keep going out to another room and quietly hop in and out, you know. And I have 3 levels of earplugs. I have the foam ones, which the previous speaker spoke about, which are very good. They do increase the tinnitus in my ear, but they allow me to attend a function. But I can't really speak to people too well, because then my own voice is too loud in my own head. And that's called hyperacusis and recruitment in the medical terms. So I actually then have a second level of earplug, which the previous speaker spoke about, which is the moulded one, and I do have them, and they're very, very good. But again, I find it hard to cope. It puts stress on my head trying to talk to people or answer people who don't know what you're on about. It's very difficult for people to understand. My 3rd level is a new earplugs for me, right? And it's industrial headphones, and I don't care. I really don't care what people think when I wear them. And I have dark sunglasses, which I wear all the time, even in the rain. Even I went to see a Willie Nelson concert, and I wear dark sunglasses and big blue earplugs, or industrial headphones would be the other answer. And if it means doing that and enjoying the concert at half the level of what other people can hear, or a musical or a play, isn't that better than sitting at home in the kitchen, you know, being depressed? So that's the way I cope with it. And I started up a Meniere's group myself because of people like me who have, I found that there was nobody in Ireland who knew nothing about it, you know. So I actually, being a member of Meniere's UK, they support me a lot. They send me stuff, send me information, leaflets. I started up a group, and my daughter, who is here today, I could kill her. I was sitting on a beach in Wexford, And I got a phone call and she said, Mom, Joe Duffy's going to ring you in 5 minutes' time, okay? And I said, okay. And she knows I'm quite shy. I'm a chronically shy person. And so I actually, no, that's hard to believe, but it's true. But I actually took the call because I didn't have enough time to think about it. And that's why she did it the way she did it, I think. And I took the call and I spoke to Joe Duffy for about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe longer. It just seemed to be a great conversation we had because somebody was listening to me about Menieres. Somebody wanted to know about it in Ireland, you know. And this was 2 years ago. And as a result, I started up a group. I got a free room from Deaf Here. There's 55 members in the group. We have a secretary, a treasurer. We're all doing it for nothing. And we have myself, who's kind of doing most of the work, to be honest, but I couldn't do it without the others. The 55 members don't all come every month. Downstairs is a table where we were today. I don't have a big banner or anything yet because there's just little me, and my sister helped me today. But downstairs there's leaflets on the dates of our groups, one a month. We have them in the afternoon on a Monday once a month because most people come from the country. They get the train to Houston and then they get the Luce from Houston up to the square. And we're near the square, you know, we're beside Tala Hospital. It's where we have the free room in Deaf Here. So my latest update on it is that if anyone has any questions they can ask me now, but just to say that my latest update is on it, that I have had many emails coming and going, which is very difficult for me because in the later stages of Meniere's disease, focus problems come into the play, and my eyes are very. I was on the laptop for the last 3 weeks because of varying things to do with Meniere's UK and organising, becoming affiliated with them. We had, you know, and that concentration on the laptop and on my phone has wrecked my head, and I had a Meniere's attack on Thursday night, so I was very bad, barely able to walk on Friday, and I just resumed quickly without fuss, you know, then as soon as I can, which I wouldn't have done years ago. So basically, I'm going to London in June to meet up with Meniere's UK, who have agreed to become affiliated with me and give me a bit more clout behind me and maybe make us more valid, give us more validate, you know, make us more listened to maybe, and their research we will benefit from, which I don't have to go and do all over again myself. So they have been just tremendously helpful and very interested in the whole thing, you know, because the 55 members who joined the group that I started have become members of Meniere's UK. It's something like €30 a year, and you get all their up-to-date research. We've had speakers out to the group. We had Ross O'Neill, who invented the mute button, which I'd love to buy myself if I had the money, but maybe someday. But he came along for nothing and talked to us about the mute button, which is fantastic for tinnitus. You know, I wrote a poem about tinnitus, and I called it Sounds, in inverted commas, like tinnitus, like Meniere's, sounds like Meniere's. I can't remember it right now off my head. I could, but it was to describe all the different sounds, because with Meniere's it's a little bit different than other tinnituses. It's good and it's bad. There's so many different types of sounds I get. I hear orchestras in my head, and I was so delighted when I read that in the Meniere's UK Spin magazine that someone heard people hear orchestras in their heads, because I thought, oh my God, thank God I'm not gone mad, you know, because I would wake up, and if I could write music, which I can, but I can't write it very quickly, if I could write it, I could have made amazing songs possibly. As you know, Ryan Adams, maybe you know, Ryan Adams, he's a singer, and he has done an extensive interview. He has Meniere's disease, and he's learning to cope with it too. Barbara Streisand, if any of you are old enough to know her, she only does one-woman shows now and again because it hits up her tinnitus terribly, you know.